Welcome friends, it's Ray. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's video is a part of the Card Crafters Collaborative Hop here on YouTube, hosted by Robin Marshall Clark, the Delta Crafter. And our theme today is Winter Wonder. Today we're going to be using this Hero Arts Adriatic cardstock. It's 111 pounds and it's a really pretty greenish blue color. We're going to be using some Altenew Antique Gold Pigment ink. It's the metallic gold, and a brush. And Gina K Designs Stellar Snowflake Stencil. Love this. And some fine detail clear embossing powder by Simon Says Stamps, and mint tape by scrapbook.com. My first time using it. I've been hearing good things about it, so wanted to give it a try. And then we're going to use just a regular sheet of copy paper, and I have folded it in half 2 times to get my A2 card panel size. First, I am going to start with some mint tape. I cut 3 pieces of this. You can also use Post-it note tape or some other low-tack tape form. Alright, so I have my snowflake stencil here. There's a little etching on the front, so I'm going to turn it over and then line it up in the center with my fold lines on the horizontal and vertical. So, and that's just going to center it on my cardstock or my copy paper, and then I am going to tape it here. I'm bringing in my cardstock and just get this all straight and then tape it together. Okay, and then flip that over, and all right, make sure these are relatively straight. I mean, they don't have to be perfect. Just fold that in half and then apply, get this in frame here, apply a piece of tape here, then just lift this up, take this off, don't need it anymore. Now what we can do is we've got our our stencil level or equal distances on our cardstock, and so later I'm going to be cutting this in 4s, and so it will be positioned just right. You can see that the bottom half of this, or the bottom half of the stencil there's a little more space than up here, so that's why it may not look even on the cardstock, but it is. Okay, we're going to tape, strategically tape this side, because I'm going to be applying ink here, and I don't want to get it, on the sides of my cardstock. Okay, so up here I'm going to do a longer piece of tape to cover outside of each of these 3 points. And so you can use any large snowflake stencil for this. This was a favorite of mine. I think it came out last year. Now we can start. Oops, I forgot one thing, which I always forget, and that is my anti-static powder, because in the end I'm going to be heat embossing this. So let me just gently remove my mint tape And I'm just going to fold my stencil down. I'm going to leave this one piece on purpose. Okay? Because I've already figured out the positioning and I don't want to have to do that again. All right, so just applying some anti-static powder all in the area where I know I'm going to be stenciling and heat embossing. Now I'm going to get my tape repositioned again, being strategic so that if I happen to color outside of these dots, because they're so close to the edge, I will color on my tape. Okay, now we're ready. So this is Altenew's Pigment ink, Gold Metallic, which I love. I got the Reinker with this because I know I will be using it a lot. And so I wasn't thinking here and started on an outer edge. It really makes sense to start in the center so that when you are holding your cardstock to your table, you don't have to worry about touching your any parts of your cardstock with inked hands. So I quickly rethought that. All right, and if you wanted to have an ombre effect, you could do that. I am not going for that today. I want complete coverage, so I am liberally applying my metallic gold pigment ink. Okay, so this is looking really good. Just checking my corners here to make sure I got adequate ink. And I can see that this gold is going to be beautiful on this cardstock. And this is a great way to mass produce your Christmas cards, because here we're going to get 4 in one shot. Can't beat it. Okay, so I'm going around the edges, and again, I started in the center just so that I would not have to touch any of my gold ink when I go around to get all of my ink applied. This is beautiful. Now, because this is pigment ink, it is going to dry slowly. So I have opted instead to use some clear embossing powder over top to set it. All right, so let's go ahead and remove our tape. We can reuse this. There might be a little gold, but once that dries, that should be fine. All right, so slowly rotating and taking off my tape. And look at how beautiful that is. All right, I will be back. Let me go put my stencil in some soapy water. Okay, now I'm gonna bring in my fine detail embossing powder. Just happens to be on my desk. You don't have to have fine detail for this because it's the image itself. There's not a lot of fine detail to it. There's a lot of detail, but not fine detail. So any embossing powder should work. You can actually use gold embossing powder if you want. I opted not to. I really wanted to show the gold pigment ink itself and show that you don't need a lot of supplies to make this design. Now, certainly if you don't have gold pigment ink, then just use some clear embossing ink and some gold embossing powder. Okay, so here I'm taking my dry paintbrush and just removing unwanted embossing powder in areas that I don't want it. All right, bringing in my heat gun. Let me let that warm up, heat up for a few seconds before I bring it to the back of my cardstock. And I always start with the back just to make sure I get some warmth behind before I bring it to the front. So now that that has cooled a bit, I'm bringing in my large trimmer, and I'm just going to cut that in half, just like I would an A2 card base, at 5.5 by 4 1/4. And just like Humpty Dumpty, I'm going to put it back together again. Bring in my design, put it back together again. And so what I want is to just take these two as is and flip them over. Take these two as is and flip them over. Now we're going to tape them together. Okay, and the design is pretty forgiving, so if for some reason you don't get them exactly lined up, it's not gonna be a big deal. Okay, I'm gonna bring in some of my purple tape because I happen to have some cut, and tape that. Turn this way. Well, actually tape these first. Okay. Okay. My purple tape is starting to lose its stick, but I think it'll be okay here. And then bring these together. Okay. And again, pretty forgiving. Remove this tape. Pretty forgiving if you don't get them just right. Now I'm going to turn this whole piece over. And I saw that, I saw this on a Jennifer McGuire video, and I hopefully can find it and remember to link it so that you can see how she did things over there too. Okay, so I'm going to bring my stencil back in. And the good thing about this stencil is it has points on either side. I'm lining up with those points in the center and on the side, like I did on the original design. I did speed this up quite a bit here because I'm doing the exact same thing. But wanted to leave it in just so that you can see it. Look at how pretty this finished design is. With all of my embossing on one side of my panel. And for my next panel, I'm using Hero Art's Eggplant cardstock. Love this beautiful color. And wanted to try the same technique, but instead using Hero Art's glitter paste and my Altenew Antique Gold Reinker, and mixing those together for this next design. So I will speed this up quite a bit and interject, well, Well, I guess the main thing about this particular technique is to mix together well, work as fast as you can, because this tends to start drying relatively fast, and you'll need to clean it off of everything, your palette and your palette knife, and stencil as quickly as you can. And so the key is to make sure you're using enough glitter paste. Even if you think it's too much, it's probably about the right amount, because you really don't want to have to mix it again. But if you do, again, just work quickly. And then for this one, I am just making sure I get this as even as I can and spread out over the entire stencil. I did get a little glitter paste outside of my stenciled area, and I will have to disguise that as I put my cards together. I do place press and seal over top of my paste jars, just to keep them as fresh as possible. Okay, so this is dry. I actually did this before breakfast, and now it's noonish, lunchtime, so that's been about 5 hours, and it's completely dry. I got some little oopsies here, so I'll have to disguise those in my finished cards. Just like the first panel, I've cut my this panel to A2 sized pieces. Take my top two pieces and turn them around, because I want my stenciling, my next stenciling, to be here. And as I'm positioning these, I see that I cut, they're not totally even. So one side is a little longer than the other, but that's okay. I just want to make sure that I align them such that the inside area where I'm going to place my stencil, those areas are straight, even though the outer edges may not meet. I'm going to be trimming this at the end anyway, but I want the inside layers straight as possible, so that my design will be centered. So I'm repeating the same process of applying the glitter, but here or the glitter paste. But I'm purposefully showing you this part because I am taping my panels together differently, so that I end up with a design on the opposite end of each, or the opposite corner of each panel. So slightly different from the first panel. I did use more tape, so all around the perimeter, in hopes that I don't get another owie this time. I'm going to mix my glitter paste and my ink together same way, using a hair more glitter paste, just so I can get through the design a little faster. So I did cut out or speed up all of the duplicating, because I'm doing the exact same application, and we'll set this aside to dry. I gently remove the tape from the back, so as not to mess up my design, but I do want to remove the tape before it dries. Here are the finished cards using the Adriatic cardstock, and I didn't show the entire process because I really wanted to focus on the technique. I did trim down my panels to 4 by 5 1/4, added foam tape on the back, and added my sub-sentiment, just using that same Altenew antique gold pigment ink, and let that dry. Then added or sprayed it with distressed mica stain in Merrymint, let that dry, and then added my focal sentiment. So on these 4 panels, I used the Tsukineko Sparkle Shimmer Spray to add more texture. And then I brought in some iridescent stars that I had in my stash. And I used those to cover up the owlies. I just glued that on. Added my sentiment, and I now have 8 more Christmas cards, and I think they came out beautifully. So let's take a look. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer, with the glitter with gold pigment mixed in, or the gold pigment ink that is heat embossed. I will link to the next person in the hop. Be sure to go over and check out their video and show them some love. I hope you liked today's video and will give me a thumbs up, and consider subscribing if not already a subscriber. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, good day, friends.